맛있어.
그게 다르구나.
So this is the mash tun, and it holds 7.5 tons of barley grist. That grist has come from the mill through to the grist hopper, and then down in here, where the first of 3 sets of hot water are added. This comes up through the pipe here. And the mash tun goes all the way down to the next floor. It was put in here in spring 2020, 2021, and they built it. It came down the road in sections, this half and that half, and then they built it, pushed it up, and built the next bit underneath. This wall behind you was gone completely. And this one has beautiful cladding on the outside, which keeps it much warmer inside, because it's much more efficient to run than the old one. The old mash tun was beautiful. It had a copper top, cast iron sides, but she was worn out. She needed to be replaced. So that first mash has gone in there, the first part of the hot water, about 64 degrees Celsius. It will lie in the bed of the mash tun, and the bed of the mash tun is like a sieve, and we will take the liquid out through the bottom of the mash tun. But what is happening in there is the hot water makes the natural enzyme in the grain work and change the starch to sugar. And it's that hot sugary liquid, which we call wort, which we want for the next stage. But there's still more sugar in there, so we put more water in. The second water is about 80 degrees Celsius, and it is sprayed from the top, from the spray heads you see there, and we call that sparging. This will wash out more sugary water, and again, that will be taken through next door. The third water will go through, because there's still a little sugar left in there, but it is too weak, and we will keep this to go in with the next mash. When we take the liquid away, what is left in here is called draff. And it is like porridge, and that was the hopper that you saw outside. So the draff goes to the hopper, the farmer comes in with the tractor, takes it to the cows, they milk the cows, and we get truffles of cheese washed in electricity back in. This is fermentation. So the wort from next door is brought through to the washbacks. These are 4 Oregon pine washbacks. And here we add the yeast. The yeast will ferment the sugar, which is in the wort, and give us what we now call wash. So when the yeast is working, it is producing heat, it is producing carbon dioxide, and it is producing alcohol. So the yeast will make about 7% alcohol. And this is the last of the 3 ingredients needed for the whiskey. For whiskey we need water, we need barley, and we need yeast. So when the alcohol is made and the heat comes up, the yeast will die naturally. The alcohol here will be about 7% alcohol. Who would like their whiskey at 7% alcohol? So it is a beer, but it does not have the hops or anything in it. So it is a very strange beer. You would not want to drink it like this. But it's what we need for the next stage. And all the movement in there, this is the yeast doing this. We do not stir this or anything.
So how long does it stay? How many hours?
So we have 2 lengths of fermentation. We have a short fermentation between 48 and 52 hours, and we have a long fermentation between 104 and 110. And the long fermentation gives us the fruity notes, the tropical notes in there. At the weekend, they are all long. The week, they are all short. So have a look down. These hold 50,000 litres.
50,000?
We put 30,000 litres in them. And to build these, they took the roof off. So what we're going to do next is we are going to follow the wash through into the still room. These are Oregon pine. We don't grow pine tall enough in this country, so this wood comes from America. It's Douglas fir from America, but way back in Victorian times, all the green trees were pine, so it's called Oregon pine. But our trees here are small with branches, and they have knots in the wood, and they would not be strong enough for all this liquid. And these are tuns, and this is the tun room that you're standing in. Now, in the Still room, where we go next. There is no photography inside, but I will show you at the door where you can take a photograph and set up your camera.
How can you wash this?
So they steam clean, like pressure wash and steam clean. The wood has good bacteria, which people say changes the flavour of the wash. Many distilleries now are going to stainless steel, but we chose to stay with the Oregon pine because it has these extra flavours.
Are you planning to use virgin oak cask?
We are already using virgin oak. So we have one which is a virgin oak finish,
사용해서 나오는
and the Tobermory 12, which you had yesterday, had a touch of virgin oak in it. We talked about the sapwood and the clove notes. That was the virgin oak coming through. But there is a virgin oak finish whiskey in both Tobermory and Leche, where you get more of those notes in here. So the virgin oak, the gentleman asked. So you have all casks are toasted when they're being made. But the virgin oak, there's no bourbon, no sherry, no wine, no other liquid has been aged in that cask. So it's about the wood and the flavours that the toasting and the making of the cask have made. So yes, it will be toasted, but it won't have another flavour inside.
virgin oak의
It's
특성이
very, because you're going straight into the wood, it's a very strong cask to use. You have to be very careful. You do not use it too much. The flavours go into the spirit very quickly, but it is an excellent cask to bind together and pull the whole whiskey together and give it a wonderful mouthfeel.
the ingredient of whiskey, water, barley, and some other things. Which is the most important one to affect the flavor of whiskey?
You can't have one without the other, but
If you talk to different people in the industry, they will argue for different things. All of them affect what you have at the end of the day. They have been breeding the barley, they have been breeding the yeast to make things different. Some places are using the old varieties of barley and the old varieties of yeast. It used to be we used a brewer's yeast and we used a baker's yeast to give us the length of fermentation and different flavours. But now they have bred the yeast, it's the same Saccharomyces, but they have bred the yeast to do the job itself. But lots of distilleries experiment with different things. The water, you can't change the water. The water is special. How much it influences it? But if the spirit is not right, you cannot hide everything with the cask. The spirit has to be good spirit. We have good spirit. And that spirit will give about 25% of the flavour for a casked whiskey. The rest of it is the wood, how important the wood is. And if you think of the different flavours you tasted today in the Bond, you could tell me that just by tasting.